And last session before lunch is panel discussion chaired by Robert Clark, contributing editor of Light Reading, and we're talking about realising the 5G promise, a journey towards zero-touch automation. Oh, Robert, welcome to the stage.
Afternoon. How are we for time? Are we going our full measure?
Well, we're running a little over at the moment, and you know, bearing in mind the saying about standing between people and their lunch.
I was just going to make that joke, but hey, you've stolen my material.
But, you know, we've got a great panel, so you know,
okay.
If you could stick to the clock, that would be brilliant. Thank you.
Well, welcome. Welcome the hardcore who are staying with us. Yes, I'm not standing between you and lunch. I am in the middle of your lunch. This is yet another searching probe of automation with a particular focus on 5G. And we have an excellent panel here who are going to take you on this journey about the journey that they're on. So perhaps if we could have the panelists come to the stage. We have Danny Han from the Telenor Group. I'll be getting the panelists to introduce themselves more fully in a moment. I have Anuradha Udunuwara from Sri Lanka Telecom, who happily likes to be known as Anu. Hi, Anu. And we have Henri Helanterä from Elisa Polystar. Oh, no. Right.
Where do you want to sit?
I'll take the end position.
Okay.
Now, I will. I'd like to kick this off with the panel introducing themselves and their role in their organisation, and perhaps if you could each give us a very quick take on what zero-touch automation might mean to you and your organisation, or what your expectations are. I'll start with you, Henri.
Okay. Thanks. Great to be here. Henri Helanterä, I've been in the industry close to 20 years. A lot of the time focused on OSS, but have been touching parts of the network as well, from access to core, working in R&D and in customer-facing roles, head of technology, pre-sales. I'm currently part of innovations and technology team at Elisa Polystar, so my responsibility is to incubate new technology-driven innovations as well as new business models towards AI-driven operations. So our parent company is Elisa, a CSP based in Finland, and to us, automated operations and zero touch is not some kind of an elusive dream in the future. Elisa has been kind of front runner in automating their network and service operations. So they have achieved a zero-person or unmanned or dark NOC, however you want to call it, already more than 10 years ago. So basically that's where we come from, and have this kind of an operator-to-operator approach to what we provide to our customers.
Danny.
Well, thank you. First, good afternoon. Really glad to be here again at FutureNet Asia. Excited to see all of you. So, first and foremost, my name is Danny. I'm the Vice President and Head of Telenor Asia Strategy Team. What we do here it's hosted in Singapore. And what we do here in Telenor Asia is that we are overlooking 4 markets across the Asian markets, serving close to 200 customers. And I think to the question that you asked, Robert, to me, what zero automation, touch automation really means is that it's beyond simple basic automation. It really focuses on end-to-end process automation of delivering business, or I would dare say mission critical, that really helps an operator to differentiate itself at the end of the day from a competitive perspective, and also at the same time drive user engagement. And that focuses really towards how we engage that with the customers, with our partners, and then eventually to internal stakeholders.
Okay. And Anu?
Yes, Anuradha Udunuwara from SLT Mobitel. I have a little over 20 years experience in different domains in telecom business. currently doing enterprise solutions designing, plus bit of work with the planning and strategy team in terms of telco softwareization, telco digital transformation, 5G strategy, network modernization, SD-WAN, stuff like that, and bit of R&D as well. And in terms of automation and zero touch, I have a bit of a concern, because when you say zero touch, like it's already automated, right? So when you say zero touch automation, yeah, what do you really mean by that? But for me, automation, as also Danny mentioned, comes in two different flavors. One is how it is felt by our end customers, and how it is actually felt by our internal staff. So it's the internal automation, the processes, the operational and maintenance practices, internal automation, network services, and also the automation that is felt by our end customers. So that's my take on automation, whether it is zero touch or not.
Right. So I was going to get a bit into definitions, but I think you've already given us your definitions of zero touch automation, or automation, as Anu would say. So let's just look at where we are, or let's ask, where are we now in the journey to zero touch automation? Are we sort of new? Is this something that's been built on over a number of years already, or are we just very close to the starting line? I'll start with you, Anu.
Yeah, for us, it's not yet there. If you take the Sri Lankan market, the 5G spectrum is not yet released by the regulator for different multiple reasons. So we are anyway doing the groundwork. For example, we are modernizing our transport network, meaning the IP and the optical network, to make it 5G ready, because you understand that 5G is not a technology, it's not a service, it's a full end-to-end experience that will be felt by our end customers. So transport network, although we normally don't speak about a lot, is a critical piece in that realization. So we are making the IP and optical domains like SDN, and then bringing in the network orchestration on top of that. And on the other side of the affairs, like the traditional IT stack, we get the service orchestration. So we have SDN control, which is enabling automation, but it's whole different approach. SDN is control plane and data plane separation, but although it supports automation. But orchestration, network orchestration, is really the one directly supporting automation on the network side, as well as the service orchestration on the service side. But there's a bit of gray area between the service orchestration and the network orchestration, because if you take the full stack from data plane, the control, the network orchestration, the service orchestration, and then the OSS, BSS, and the customer portals, this gray area between service orchestration and network orchestration is something that we are working on. Like, what sort of capabilities should go to the network orchestration side? What sort of capabilities should go to the service orchestration side? Because there cannot be any duplications in terms of the capabilities. So that is the type of work that we are doing. It will take a while, but we are working on that.
Okay, it's getting 5G ready. Now, and Danny, how far has the Telenor progressed?
Well, I think that's a good question. I mean, before I answer that, I think what this panel is really talking about, realizing the 5G promise. And when you talk about that in perspective, what the 5G promise is really boils down to two things, actually. From a customer point of view, it's really giving them seamless, interactive, personalized offerings. From an enterprise point of view, it's really trying to bring together, helping them to collaborate and drive digital solutions that is relevant into their respective markets. Now, with that in mind, and when we look at Telenor into our journey, this journey has started, I think, since 2014, 2013, when we started off with, first and foremost, network automation through very focus on the network efficiency part. Energy savings, making sure that it's robust enough to trigger and all that. And that journey has started in 2013, 2014, and eventually when you look at it in 2016, or 17, when RPA was introduced, that gave us another opportunity to relook that, yes, so the network automation has taken place, great. Now, what can we do with RPA? And that's where the back office automation start to place. And to me, to the point that I was sharing earlier, it's not just the focus on automation, but it's really the opportunity to rethink that, can we do this better? Is there an opportunity to relook at how we drive this business process to be better for our customer experience? And then when we look into 2021, during 22, then the opportunity with working with hyperscalers. So automating the network is one thing, but how do you ensure that you bring that digital experience outside? And that's where the hyperscalers come in, and they bring their expertise on trying to bridge these two worlds together. And then, of course, where we are now, right now, I mean, it's very early days, generative AI and all that. How that will think, I think that is something we are also watching very closely and trying to learn from others how to best use that into our network. But fundamentally, what I'm saying is that the journey towards zero-touch automation, it's not just only one focal point. It's really looking at building on top of each other. And I think later on when we discuss, and I heard many times people talking about the accessibility of open APIs, I think that's also an important aspect of how we think of driving that discussion between the telcos.
And Henri, I mean, where are your customers in this journey?
Yeah. So I think first of all, I was very happy to see the previous presentation because it aligned very well in terms of the thinking that I have around this topic as well. So I think if we think about like 5G zero-touch automation, quite often we focus on, let's say, the dynamic service activation and these kinds of things, creating the new revenue streams through these kinds of automated capabilities of the network. And that's, of course, like one important part of it. But I mean, we need to keep in mind also those other key operational processes, meaning your assurance processes and your customer service processes. So all these need to be addressed and they need to be in line. Where I come from and where our company comes from, and when we discuss with customers, so I see that, let's say, the assurance process kind of forms the foundation on which everything else is built. And the reason for this is that in most cases, your 5G network is not an island of its own, maybe with the exception of some dedicated private 5G. But you, as an operator, you always have your legacy network there. You need to operate these networks kind of through common processes. And let's say there's a lot of operational efficiencies and quality benefits to be achieved by building that foundation with the automated assurance processes, covering both the existing network and the new 5G network.
So how do we frame this journey, or where do we start at? I mean, do we start with the customer? Well, obviously, the customer is important, if not the most important thing. But do we also need to frame it around the technology or the architecture? How do we sort of get going or move faster on the journey to zero-touch automation? So we'll start back at this end, Henri, again.
So I would. Let's say have a two-pronged approach here. So I think definitely what comes to, let's say, incubating new business models, new types of services, especially focusing on 5G, we do need to start with the customer. So what are the end customer problems that we try to solve, and then walk backwards from there to the solutions. Then the other angle is that, like I said, we do have the existing network, the existing services, and operators do need to gain efficiencies in fairly short term as well. Build that foundation, kind of clean the baseline on which you can then build these other capabilities. So I would start there by looking at like what are your biggest challenges, where do you spend most of your time today with manual operations that could easily be automated, what sort of quality challenges do you have with your network, and to what extent those could be solved with automation. So I would basically start with these two approaches and kind of work in parallel with those.
And for you, Danny, how does Telenor start its journey?
Well, I think Henri answered most of them already, so it's pretty much the same line of thinking. But I think where, if I were to crystallize it even further, yes, it always starts with the customers. Yes, it also focuses on the other prong of what value we can bring or what efficiency we can bring to the organization. But at the end of the line, it's also what we call as really the value we can extract out of it. So I think that's the focal point. And if I were to ask, if you were to ask in terms of the approach and how we're taking this, is of course, be very clear of what value you're trying to create. Measure that, find ways on crystallizing how do you go around about measuring that success through zero-touch automation. And I think that's very important because once you get that right, then it's very easy to identify and even prioritize which are low-hanging, which has high impact and all that. And that helps to give view on really what the organization should be gearing and how do you organize yourself to deliver on those initiative or points that you just discussed earlier.
All right, and Anu, I mean, are you on the same page as Danny and Henri? How does Sri Lanka Telecom frame it?
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree with both of them, but given the conditions that Sri Lanka is right now, we are just coming out of an economic downturn. So maybe our priorities are now changing because automation was a priority for us some time back. So now probably I would say in that sort of an economic condition, how to do like business. For that, rather than automation, for example, AI might help us to understand the market segments better and tend to focus on the services and solutions to specific customer segments, to identify the customers, their paying patterns, their affordability, all of that. So all of a sudden we see that automation is actually come second, but trying to understand the market in that given economic condition and how to do business is now become a priority. But set aside that, we also sort of looking at, although we are waiting for 5G spectrum to be released, we are also looking at automating some of our existing services. For example, like what if we can, for example, decrease the time to market? Like if an enterprise customer wants a service on the fly, so we are trying to automate those things through enterprise customer portals as well. So it's automating existing services and maybe waiting for 5G to come maybe in another one or 1.5 years time.
Okay, well, I was just about to ask, what are some of the best use cases? It sounds like you just mentioned one of your favorite ones there. Are there other use cases that are really that look like they use a lot of potential for you or that you are looking forward to?
Yeah, basically, the consumer market is sort of, it's in our part of the world, it's low ARPU markets, but enterprises, especially the SMEs, they have a big potential because they are also coming out of the economic downturn. So they also want to bring about their businesses, expand their businesses. So they need more support as compared to the consumers. Consumers anyway, they use the basic services, but the enterprises need more support. For that, maybe automation and a bit of targeted marketing might help. So that's the focus area right now for us.
And Danny, you just mentioned some of the low-hanging fruit or the impactful services. So what might they be?
No, I think that's a good point. No, I think I do understand where Anu is coming from because there are markets also within Telenor Group that are challenged, macro conditions and all that. But I think what really we give attention to also is that really looking at how do you best optimize the journey for our consumers and really be personalized towards them. So some of the use cases that I think from a consumer's perspective, games, media still stands to be a very attractive part for them. The game and the challenge is that how do you do this personalized offering to them faster, better, and more precise. Automation does play a part in that context where it helps to accelerate the go-to-market. Taking one of the experience I had, this was in 2018, where one of the markets that I was working in, we actually shortened the whole go-to-market journey from 6 days to within 2 hours. And that calls for a lot of attention in how you do segmentation automation, on how you focus on making sure that when you do the pricing is correct, but at the same time also a little bit of process alignment. How do you get approval from finance to make sure this is all going out correctly and all that? So that's one perspective. The other perspective is that, like I've mentioned, when you talk about 5G promise, and for us telcos, at least what we're looking at is really giving services beyond connectivity. And to do that, and when you look from an enterprise perspective, it is really saying when you talk about beyond connectivity, how is that working? So an example in Thailand in 2022 is that when we started to open our APIs to relevant partners in the market, one success, again, back to gaming, we were able to accelerate the take-up, first onboarding them within a month. Second thing is helping that correct joint go-to-market and thinking in terms of automating the reports, making us understanding how this is developing, help to drive the take-up very significantly in a very short period. Within 11 months, 700,000 users on board. So that's an example. Today, Thailand is also one of our markets that has one of the biggest 5G coverage. A year back, we were only about 2-3 million customers. Today, it's 8.3. How that has happened is through the automation on the back of the network, onboarding, and also really making sure the journey, at least from the retail to activation of SIMs and all that, is being seamless and all that. So that does help. From an enterprise perspective, I think the attractive use cases, I think a lot was shared yesterday. And a lot of the experimentation with working with hyperscalers in terms of bringing new solutions for enterprise challenges that are common and that's something that we can work on together. So examples I see today, there's a maritime. There's a lot of applications that's going there today, sure. Oil and gas, and also manufacturing. So those are some of those specific use cases that I see has tremendous opportunity as of now.
All right, so Henri, the vendor view, some hot, new, or exciting use cases that you've come across?
Yeah, I think the answers we heard from Anu and Danny were pretty good, and maybe I would reflect a little bit on those. So I think we perfectly saw the importance of automating the customer journey and the customer engagement. So I would call that automation as well. So I mean, really driving that customer segmentation, personalized offering, understanding the customer behavior and experience and their expectations. Then I think it's kind of fair to say that 5G has yet to deliver like significant benefits in the consumer segment, and we have heard from multiple speakers in this conference as well that that we have a lot of expectations on this kind of API-based model to kind of spur some new innovation, creating an ecosystem around it, and I see that as also kind of the best opportunity for let's say consumer-oriented business models. I mean, of course, one use case with 5G that has proven to be successful already with consumers is obviously fixed wireless access. But that, I would say, aligns quite well with how operators are kind of used to delivering services already before, so there is kind of no huge disruption there. And then, of course, you have these successes with industries, with private 5G networks in different verticals, and then there are, of course, like different deployment models there. Some happen through operators, some happen, let's say, through systems integrators or equipment providers directly with some larger enterprises. So.
Okay, so I'm going to finish up raising something that came out of this morning's session, where there was a survey, admittedly not the most scientific survey, but a survey anyway, which found that I think 43% of the audience thought that the biggest issue in automating were the people issues, cultural and internal issues, accounting for 43%. 29% said business issues. So we're separating out people and business issues. So I want to ask Danny your view on that first, because you touched on a moment ago some business issues you had in your automation. So,
of course, it's the journey. I mean, change in any context, be it automation or anything, it's always a challenge in itself. I think when it came to automation, yes, the biggest issue we also had was really the people issue, because we had to do two things. One, getting the right people with the right technical ability to execute on some of these points and plans that we have already. Second thing is really getting people on board that this is a good thing to do. The change is beneficial. And I think to the point that I was sharing earlier, it gives the opportunity for people to rethink how the process works, and even, opportunities for them to even rethink their role into that process. It's never easy. And I think when you look at how things are, how the journey took us, it really took a lot of convincing, a lot of buy-in, but at the same time, really taking small steps, incremental steps towards leading. So I think building the foundation of saying that, yes, the transition of these changes is not just beneficial for our customers, but it's also beneficial for the organization. That takes a lot of, I would say, campaigning and really getting people on board for that.
And Anu, what's the biggest obstacle you think? Is it people, business, something else?
Yeah, I would say it's a combination of people and business, but predominantly it is people. And when it comes to people and when it comes to the topic of automation, we have two people issues. One is the talent of the people and also the fear of the people. Like, am I going to lose my job when everything is automated? Sure. So we need to address both. We need to reskill the staff, the teams, and maybe we need skills on automation, but we also need to reskill them to take other jobs as well. Because definitely once you automate things, certain tasks need not be touched by humans. So, but still we cannot throw them away, right? So you need to reskill them to other areas as well. So those are the two things that we are rightly working on. We have a lot of internal trainings and external trainings as well to reskill staff, and retaining talent is also a challenge for us.
For sure. And Henri, where do you see it?
Yeah, I think the people issue is certainly one, and Anu, I think you described that very well, and basically that's exactly what like our parent company Elisa has gone through, like let's say getting through the hurdle of resistance of people towards automation, and then reskilling those people. So what they actually do today at Elisa is that they are basically developing automation rather than running manual operations. And of course there are kind of continuous and new skills that you need to add, like AI is becoming more and more important. Those capabilities need to be learned, but also they need to be made more easily accessible to let's say the domain experts who are not data scientists, but they basically know the business problems that they want to solve. But then I would flag maybe like another issue that is creating problems. It's more like cultural issue in the industry in general. Like as a regulated industry, telcos, they have grown to be quite risk averse. They need to adhere to a lot of constraints here and there, and basically this is not like very conducive to this kind of an era where we would need to innovate very quickly and iteratively. We can't really afford to wait until there's like a perfect solution that is, let's say, standardized to the last nut and bolt by 3GPP. It's not going to happen like that. And kind of the way telcos have like perfected the procurement process of buying the 3GPP based solutions, it's not really working in this kind of a domain. So we need changes also kind of culturally how we operate.
For sure. I'm sure if we come back in 3, 4, 5 years, we'll still be agreeing that the people, the cultural and the business internal issues are the ones we're grappling with. Well, that brings to an end this panel and this morning session, and lunch beckons. So if you could thank our panel for their contributions.